With the 29th session of the Conference of Parties under the UNFCCC underway in Baku, Azerbaijan, let's take a look at the important players at the platform. This includes states as well as regional groups and special climate-related alliances. A broader classification may very well be states and groups who are largely responsible for a majority of climate disasters and the consequent loss and damage on one hand, and states who suffer the real impact of these disasters, often without the means for mitigation on the other. China and the US are the top two greenhouse gas emitters. China is at the top at present, and while the US is a close second, it is the highest historical emitter. In 2023, China accounted for about 30% of global annual carbon emissions, while the US contributed almost 13%. While China is on an easy course to meet its 2030 climate targets, reports suggest that policy inertia has led Chinese policymakers to lowball their 2035 targets. The country has also not disclosed their NDCs or nationally determined contributions. Moreover, China is represented by a new envoy at the COP this year. Liu Zhenmin, who has a long history of experience in climate diplomacy, was appointed as the country's new special envoy for climate change after the veteran representative Xi Zhenmin retired. Despite being the second largest economy in the world, China is still considered a developing country by the UN, and it has already rejected the summit's draft text on new climate financial goal on grounds that it does not reflect the suggestions made by developing countries.
发达国家应当展现更大的雄心和行动，履行率先减排义务，提前碳中和时间。发展中国家也要在能力范围内尽最大努力。中方将提交覆盖全经济范围，包括所有温室气体的2035国家自主贡献，努力争取2060年前实现碳中和。
The country is also expected to oppose carbon border taxes and other trade measures it considers restrictive and harmful for developing economies. The United States has seen a major upheaval in its climate position with the re-election of Donald Trump earlier this month. While the Biden administration has made significant contributions to climate change mitigation, the coming of Trump, with his blatant dismissal of climate change, threats to exit the Paris Agreement, and promises to boost oil production in the US during his presidential campaign, does not bring good tidings for the summit. US climate envoy John Podesta made a statement on day one of the summit.
In January, we're going to inaugurate a president whose relationship to climate change is captured by the words hoax and fossil fuels. He's vowed to dismantle our environmental safeguards and once again withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement. That is what he has said, and we should believe him. It is clear that the next administration will try to take a U-turn and reverse much of this progress. And of course, I'm keenly aware of the disappointment that the United States has at times caused the parties of the climate regime, while the United States federal government under Donald Trump may put climate action on the back burner. The work to contain climate change is going to continue in the United States with commitment and passion and belief.
COP leadership has, however, maintained that climate action will continue to function in a robust manner despite the impending Trump presidency.
Many of you have been reporting on the climate implications of political events in the last weeks. I'll just say this. Our process is strong, it's robust, and it will endure. After all, global cooperation is the only way humanity survives global warming.
The United Kingdom, with its new Labour Party government, according to its Energy Minister Ed Miliband, is back in the business of climate leadership.
At this COP, I was pleased to announce that we're building on our reputation as a climate leader, with the UK's 2035 NDC target to reduce all greenhouse gas emissions by at least 81% on 1990 levels. Our goal of 1.5 degrees is aligned with our goals for growth. We are here to show leadership. We are here because I see this not only as one of the most important challenges we face globally, but one of the most important opportunities. And that is why I was very pleased to announce from COP, that £1 billion into jobs which will be in Hull. That's a material step forward.
PM Starmer also highlighted the need for international cooperation and urged all parties to come forward with ambitious targets of their own. However, domestic political pressure due to a ballooning national debt as well as stagnating economic growth raises concerns about UK's ability to make good on its promises. There are also important regional groupings and alliances. First of these is the European Union. With its 27 member nations, the EU is the highest contributor to global climate finance. In 2023 alone, it contributed 28.6 billion euros or $30.8 billion. Since European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was absent, Charles Michel, the EU Council President, addressed the COP to announce its contributions and highlight the responsibility of developed countries.
Vous pouvez compter sur l'Union européenne. Nous sommes au rendez-vous du financement. 31 milliards de dollars dans le cadre de la promesse des 100 milliards, c'est plus que la part équitable de l'Union européenne et nous encourageons tous nos collègues à suivre cet exemple, y compris nos collègues du G7 et des économies énergétiques.
Next up is the G77, the largest bloc at the summit and the largest intergovernmental organization of developing countries in the United Nations with 134 members. Along with China, G77 has rejected the COP draft on new climate finance goals. The bloc reiterates the principle of CDR, which is common but differential responsibilities, which is taken up even more seriously by the basic group of countries, which include fast-developing economies of Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. At the other extreme of representation at the summit are the least developed country group and the African group of negotiators. The first one has 45 countries which are at serious risk of climate-related loss and damage without having contributed to it. These nations are rallying to convince developed countries to increase funding through grants as well as in the Loss and Damage Fund. Like the LDC group, the African group has similar climate finance related issues on its agenda, along with specific concerns about the location of the fund's technical assistance body in the high-cost city of Geneva, rejecting recommendations for Nairobi. The group will also work proactively on getting Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which deals with carbon market rules, enforced by early next year. An alliance of small island states is a group of powerful but disproportionately affected states, especially due to rise in sea levels. Headquartered in New York, the alliance has 44 member states and 5 observers from the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean. The AOSIS will also be looking at increasing states' contributions to climate finance as well as the phasing out of fossil fuels.
We are in the midst of a climate crisis. We are in a season of superlatives. And the reality is that these extreme weather events that the world is facing daily suggest that humanity and the planet are hurtling towards catastrophe. The extreme weather requires from us a serious commitment at this COP with respect to new collective quantified goals that enable us to reverse the current trajectory and to fund mitigation, adaptation, and of course, loss and damage.
There is also the 118-member High Ambition Coalition founded by the Marshall Islands in 2015 and currently co-chaired by Costa Rica and France, which is pushing for more ambitious emission-cutting targets and policies. Joining them is the Troika, which includes the hosts of COP28, 29 and 30, the UAE, Azerbaijan and Brazil respectively, which are all heavily fossil fuel and natural gas reliant economies. The coming days will be important to see which groups are able to get their voices heard, their concerns considered, and actions taken, and which ones will not have much to show for their efforts. Expectations from the summit include a balanced approach which takes all perspectives into consideration through the unbiased lens of the need for urgent climate action. Bureau Report, India Today Global.